Alright, so Pat's holding the camera there. Midwest Frontier Podcast, guys. You know, we figure we're going to start doing a little more video. The one thing I'm going to start off with the video is, as you can see, we're sitting in a Clackacraft Eddy 360. We live in an area where there's no drift boats. Like, there's not very many drift boats. And so anyway, I was interested because we got a lot of little lakes, a lot of little ponds, things that don't have like a traditional boat launch. You could drop trailers in. I wanted something they can get on and off easily, and then something that you could fit 3 guys in. So, you know, kayaks took off. Kayaks are a one-man operation, you know, and then little John boats, but then you need a real launch. So something lightweight that can move around. That could be road, that could be something that's not a whole bunch of maintenance. So we got all the way to a drift boat. And I'm like, I got to find some information out because I want to be able to put a little motor on that because we got, well, for instance, how far are we away from here, from the boat launch pad?
Probably about
20, 30 minutes?
I'd say about 2 miles.
Oh, it's at least 2 miles, yeah. But anyway, that took us a good 20 minutes to get down here. So we wanted something we could motor, something we could row, something that does shallow water because all the rivers around us are shallow, shallow, shallow. Something you could just dump off in your front yard if you have to. So that's how we got to a Clackacraft. And there's other options too, but this was like the best for the budget, was this one. But the point of this video is I could not find anything on these things motoring. So I'm like, what is a drift boat like with a motor? What is a drift boat like with a motor? And every now and then somebody would be in a video and point out their motor. You know, oh, I got a little motor on it or whatever. That's all I'd say. But I'm like, does this thing come up on plane? How fast can I expect to go? Blah, blah, blah. So, working with Clackacraft, I got this boat's rated for a 6-horse. So this is a 6-horse Tatsu. Let me turn that. Came with that. And great little motor. Burns hardly any gas. It holds like I think a third of a gallon. Whoop, missed it. A third of a gallon. And a third of a gallon will last us, I don't know how, I mean, probably an hour to an hour and a half run time at least like half throttle. But there was no videos on what this thing does with a motor. So that's what we're doing today. So we're gonna get a little drone footage. Pat's gonna record me running this thing, and we're gonna get a speed thing. You know, to look on that thing, Pat, on the GPS for the speed.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's motor a little bit and see what it's like. One thing before, just in case it gets loud, the one thing I do want to talk about with this is the throttle. The most, I was telling Pat, the most I ever saw this thing, the wind was right and all that stuff, was 7 miles an hour. That's the fastest I've ever seen this boat go with this motor is 7 miles an hour. Typically more like 6.3. The one thing with these, because they don't come up on plane, you'll throttle this and you'll look down at your speed and it'll raise like 0.3. The difference between half throttle and full throttle on this boat is about, I'm going to say no more than a half mile an hour difference. This motor pretty much just gets louder. And yeah, but at least you can stand, operate it. It's slow, but it does everything we need to. Let me fire this thing up and then we'll whoop. Runs lean. Oop. Alright, ain't gonna start, baby. So I put this extension handle on here so I can move up a little further in the boat to get the nose down, because by yourself this thing launches. Alright, so the other thing too is this motor's offset to the left a little bit. It's not directly in the back of the boat. That's it. That's full. Get it up to speed. Get up to speed and then take a look at that. I don't know if they can hear me anymore or not, you know. We're going upstream right now, so it is going to be a little slower. I know the wind's blowing, but we have the river moving against us. Here, so you got that at full throttle, right? The speed. So now let me go to half throttle. Take a look at it with half throttle. I hope it's not the numbers. I can't really see it. Nah, I don't even know if we'll see. So right now, just in case, right now we're doing 5.7 miles an hour at half throttle. Go to full, pretty much just gets louder. We're doing the same speed, burning more gas with more noise. That's about it. See the back end of the boat goes real low. That's even with you sitting out there. It gets even worse when you're by yourself. This thing actually goes slower with one person in it.
How do you have your trim angle set?
It's all the way down because I'm trying to like launch that boat up, you know.
Can you do that just for the natural sweeping angle of the boat?
What's that?
Can you do that because the boat has a real sweeping angle?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no keel on the bottom of this thing, so it can just like slide around and just, this boat is meant to go sideways. Alright, so get some footage facing forward. All it did is quiet down, but we're doing like the same speed. One thing I want to say is Clackacraft, when you order this thing through them, they offer this guard. Should I show the guard? Should I shut this thing off and show the guard?
Yeah.
Alright, so this thing also has that guard. So, but pretty much I showed that guard because that thing does add a little drag compared to not having it. I don't think enough to not have it, especially for the rocky, shallow stuff we're doing. But I'm gonna put some drone footage up there now, and then yeah, I guess that's. Is there anything else we should show, Pat, that I'm missing?
No.
That's how a drift boat acts with a motor on it. It's not fast.
Did you talk about the remote tank possibility?
Oh, so with these Tohatsu 6s. Anybody that's looked into this probably already knows this, but this has a tank top option, or you could do a remote tank option. I have yet to use the remote tank option, but that adds, you know, a lot of gas. This thing hardly goes through a tank in a third of a gallon. So you got a 3-gallon tank, you're running this thing for days without putting gas in it.
So not totally necessary for a day trip.
No.
But if you were doing a big long trip, you can have a remote, you can have a spare, you can have a tank top.
Yeah. But for this, for what we're doing, no, it's not even worth kicking it around. I do have an extra tank of gas here because like there is a chance we need to put it in before we get back. But no, for the most part, last year when we did the white bass run up by, forget the name of that town in Wisconsin, but we would go to and from, like we'd probably motor for a good hour and a half without having to put gas in it. I went through a total of 3 days of fishing. I think I went through a total of a gallon of gas maybe for that whole thing. We were up on, Fremont, Wisconsin, I think was the name of it. We went through that whole thing with this. Barely burned any gas, and it was great. Obviously, the oars. There's a lot of things when you're shopping around for these boats that you just don't think of. And it's like a trolling motor. Well, I don't have a trolling motor because I wanted the oars. I think there's no better way of fishing a river than with oars. A trolling motor is a pain in the ass in the river. You agree, Pat, or no?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You just all of a sudden you got to go back. Now you're turning and. You know, but an oar just slows you down just a little bit.
If you try and either fight the wind or the current or both, trolling motor is just going to get you into trouble.
All right, so we're going to insert some drone footage here, and then so you can kind of get. It's sometimes you know, watching it is like it gives you an idea of what you're going to be doing. So we're going to do some drone footage here, and then that's it. Thanks for watching, and tune into the podcast if you're curious about what we were fishing for and a couple of misses we just had. If you're looking into that, but we did Midwest Frontier, the Midwest Frontier, available anywhere. On Thursdays, right, Pat? Thursdays, every Thursday.
Yeah, it drops Thursday morning.
I even got sick last week and still put a little something out there because I just couldn't leave my people hanging. So, Midwest Frontier comes out on Thursdays. We are a localized podcast for the Midwest, so obviously with the Midwest Frontier. Thanks for watching.